What is up guys, Karma Medic here, and today, as you guys can see, I'm in a different place. I'm in an apartment in Toronto. This is where I'm staying while I'm here. Today, I wanted to do something a little bit different. I wanted to talk about the kinds of foods that you can cook at university, because I know as students, we're either not bothered to cook or we're too busy and we feel like we don't have time. Over my 4 years at university, I feel like I've mastered how to cook quickly, efficiently, make little mess, and be able to meal prep high protein and highly nutritious meals throughout the week. So preparing your meals is actually a lot easier than a lot of people think it is. You can do it in about an hour, max an hour and 15-20 minutes one day on the weekend, and you'll have 5 meals ready for the rest of the week. So the different meals that I'm going to be showing you guys throughout this series of videos is not going to be anything like plain pasta or anything simple like that. It's going to be really big and nutritious meals that will be something that you're looking forward to eating. So the two things that I focus on when I'm cooking my university meals is that it needs to be very fast and efficient. I don't want to waste time cooking because I'm sure as you do, we have plenty of other things to do in our day. And so the cooking that I do also involves keeping the utensils and the plates and everything like that to a bare minimum so that there's less cleaning up to do afterwards. And the second thing is I don't focus on making my meals look any good. I don't focus on making them the perfect dish or the perfect looking dish. It just needs to be food that I can consume after the gym when I get home. So all the meals that I cook are very, very simple. They contain a meat, a carbohydrate, and a lot of vegetables. And that way I always feel like I'm eating a balanced meal and I can vary the types of meals that I'm having. But anyway, without further ado, let's jump to the kitchen and let's get cooking. So first things first, we've got 3 of these round strip stir-fried beef. And the reason I have 3 is because I go to the gym every other day. I run at least once or twice a week. I play basketball as well. And so all of my meals need to be super high in protein. Next are the vegetables, and I've tried to keep it as simple as possible for this one. We just have 2 bell peppers over here, a bunch of bean sprouts. I don't know if you guys use this, but this is like one of my favorite vegetables cooked because the texture is just so good and crunchy. Then I have 1 jalapeno pepper, just because I like a little bit of spice, and we have carrots too. And then the main grain that we're gonna base this meal around is quinoa. Generally, most of the time, it's gonna be most efficient to prep all of the veg, so cut up and clean all the vegetables that you need to do. Then you work on the meat. Once the meat is done, you add the vegetables. Once the vegetables are done, you add the quinoa and the water. So let's get started by first cutting up some vegetables. Totally forgot to add 2 different vegetables to the mix, and that is bok choy that I mentioned before and also green onions. So I'm gonna cut those up now and add them to the bowl. Alright, so now that we're done cutting up all the vegetables, we're going to move on to seasoning the meat before we start cooking it. And usually when I season meat, all I do is throw in some salt and some pepper and that's it, because personally I don't care. But I know a lot of people really enjoy seasoning, and so I brought over my good friend Arslan. He's going to take care of the seasoning of the meat. Now we're going to start cooking in the pan. The first thing you're going to need to do is cook the meat. Once the meat is done till about, I'd say 60-70%, I add on the vegetables so that while the vegetables are cooking, we don't overcook the meat. And then after that, we'll add on the quinoa. Place down some olive oil, and I usually put it to about a medium height, but we see how the cook is going on with time and we can adjust everything as we go along. Alright, so now that the oil has warmed up a decent amount, I'm going to add on the meat. And really what you want to do is like leave it here for, I'd say about 7 to 10 minutes, something like that, mixing it about every now and again to make sure that it's even on all the different sides. I don't really do things based on time. It's just sort of like gauging it as I go along. Here's the meat. We're going to make sure that it's covered in a decent amount of oil, and as it heats up here, it's going to start to cook quite nicely. And now we can do a time lapse of that. So now if you guys take a look, you can see that the meat is at least 70% cooked, something like that. So it's almost there. And because there's still all of this meat juice here, I want to use that to help flavor the vegetables as well. So I'm going to start adding all the veg in. And this simply could not be any easier. I'm literally going to throw the vegetables down onto the food. I'm going to keep all these big leafy objects to the side. What you want to make sure is that you get the smaller vegetables down to the bottom so that they can cook. and then leave the bigger vegetables up on top. And you might be thinking this looks like an absolute mess and how in the hell is this going to turn into a decent meal? But a lot of this shrinks in size as you cook it, and everything becomes a lot smaller given a little bit of heat. So as you guys will see, this will become a lot more manageable in just a little bit of time. Alright guys, so now all of the vegetable volume has gone down. Let's take this piece of carrot. That is hot. That is really hot. I'm gonna wait a little bit more and then we'll add the quinoa. The vegetables cooked, the meat is cooked, and now what we're gonna do is add the grain. And so how I do this is also very, very easy. I literally just throw the couscous or the quinoa or the rice, whatever it is you're cooking with this meal, on top of the food. And I'm gonna use 2 packets because I wanna make a lot of food to last me throughout the week. And now you just add a bunch of boiled water. Alright, and you wanna add a decent amount of water. You might have to add water again if the quinoa is not fully cooked and it's reaching the point where the water is disappearing. But basically, that's it. You leave this on a light simmer. So you don't want to see that the water is boiling very strongly. You want to just have it bubbling a little bit. So the meal, a little bit less of a boil than that. But anyway, it's just going to stay like that for about now 10-15 minutes and the meal will be finished. So we'll catch up then. Alright, so now that the food's done cooking, we can do what is basically the easiest and best part, which is package it into different Tupperwares that you can easily have throughout the week. So a meal like this would usually take me about an hour to cook. That might sound like I'm exaggerating or something, but honestly not at all. I just put on a YouTube video to watch in the background and I just burst through this, cutting up everything really quickly, putting everything on the stove, and it can honestly be done in an hour. Alright, so Arslan is gonna have the official taste test now. He's gonna let you guys know if this food is actually good or if I'm just chatting this whole time and I don't know what I'm doing. And yeah, let's see what it tastes like. Give your honest opinion.
Like off camera? Very average. No, I'm kidding. It's actually pretty good. And it's very nutrient dense, which is what you need as a student.
Has a lot of protein too, and it's healthy, etc, etc. So yeah. Alright, so that is it guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video and you can actually follow along with me cooking and everything. If you guys found this useful, definitely let me know in a comment down below. And I have plenty of other meals to show you guys, all kinds of different things to show you guys how to cook. So if you guys want to see more videos like this, leave a like on this video and also leave a comment down below. Anyways, that is it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed and I will see you in the next one. I'm a medic. Last time we made a quinoa dish with a lot of meat and vegetables all in one big pan. Today we're going to be using the oven, which is arguably even more efficient, has less things to clean up when you're done, and is probably even a better use of your time when cooking and meal prepping. So if you don't know who I am, my name is Nasser. I'm now a 3rd-year medical student studying at King's College London, and if you're in university as well, you'll know that you feel like you barely have any time to cook, and that's why when I'm cooking, I focus on maximizing my efficiency, maximizing the amount of food that I cook for the amount of time that I spend cooking, and so that's what my cooking philosophy is all about. So for today's episode, we're going to be cooking chicken with potatoes and a ton of vegetables all in the oven. It's going to be a really easy and quick meal to do, so follow me along and I hope you guys enjoy. So most of the time for cooking this meal is going to be in the prep of cutting up the vegetables and cutting up the potatoes, so let's get started with that. Alright, so for the vegetables today, we're going to be doing a lot of broccoli. It's one of my favorite vegetables, highly nutritious, has a good crunchy texture. We're also going to be cutting up some bell peppers, so I like to use all the colors, yellow, red, and then also green, a little bit of asparagus as well, and then finally slice up a lemon just to give it that extra zest. At this point, I'm going to take the chicken thighs out of the fridge. They've been defrosting for quite some time now. The last vegetable we're going to need is some onion. You might as well do the same things at the same time. That's always going to increase your efficiency. So we might as well wash our potatoes at the same time that we wash all our vegetables. So here on the Karma Medic channel, I like to promote efficiency as much as I can. So we're going to use the least amount of utensils as possible, the least amount of cooking things as possible. I'm going to prepare all of my pans, throw in some baking paper. Now it's time to cut up the vegetables. Alright, so let's start off with the broccoli. This is probably the easiest vegetable to take care of because once you've washed it, all you have to do is break off the stems and they're basically ready to go. Now when you guys are cutting up peppers, honestly you can do it however you want. I tend to cut them in long thin strips just because I think that's the easiest and it's the most efficient use of my time when it comes to cutting and prepping vegetables. But if you prefer to do them in circles or whatever, that's totally fine too. Just gonna grab a bowl to get all of the trash that I'm accumulating and put it somewhere. So while I'm actually cooking and prepping my meals, I don't actually care if I make a mess anywhere because I know that at the end of my cook, I'm just gonna have 1, 2, 3 minute session where I wipe down all the counters, pick up anything that fell off of the floor, and that's about it. No matter how much mess you generate, it's not going to be that bad to clean up. So I'd rather do all the cleaning at the end in one big go instead of doing it all as I go along because that's just gonna waste a bunch of time. So now it's time to move on to cutting up the onions, and a surprising amount of people don't know this, but if you just chew a piece of gum while cutting up your onions, it's going to prevent you from crying. Alright, so now that all the vegetables done, let's move on to the chicken. If you've seen my previous videos, then you'll know that I don't really like to season my food, and that's just because it doesn't really make that much of a difference to me. I'm pretty sure all of my taste buds are dead. But anyways, chicken is something that I've sort of learned to season over time. So the way that I do this is actually really simple. I grab a Ziploc bag or one of these like sandwich bags, and then I fill it up with an arbitrary amount of spices and panko crumbs. I really like these, so I'm gonna put a lot. Mix it about until you have it all nice and mixed. All right, that looks pretty good to me. And now I'm gonna have a designated dirty hand in order to touch all of the chicken and a designated clean hand to do everything else. So I'm gonna open up my bag with spices, take my chicken thigh and literally just throw it in there. Once it's in there, you just shake it about. Make sure that it gets all covered from all angles and sides. And there you have it. That's the easiest way to season your chicken or any other meat before you throw it in the oven. So once it's done, just take it out, plop it down on this big tray, and then move on to the next one. And since the potatoes take longer to cook than the chicken and the vegetables, I'm gonna put those in first for about an extra 10 to 15 minutes and then add the rest of the trays. Now, because I want my potatoes to come out as crispy and crunchy as possible, I'm gonna try and cut them in thin slices so that they can get cooked really well. But of course you can cut them up in cubes or fat circles or whatever it is that you want. Also, I forgot to mention, but probably when you're cutting up all these potatoes is going to be a good time to turn on the oven. I set the temperature to 180 degrees. That's sort of the standard temperature that you want to be cooking chicken at for about 25 to 30 minutes. And so while this heats up right now, I'm going to season all of these potatoes and fix my chicken tray. So for these potatoes, just like everything else that I do, I try and keep it as simple as possible. The easier and simpler it is, the more likely I am to do it, and the faster I'm going to get done with the cooking part of this process. So the only thing I do for my potatoes usually is I put olive oil, pepper, and salt. You can also put on paprika or whatever else that you want. That's something that we do sometimes. I just take the olive oil and I drizzle it across in these sort of diagonal lines. Very easy, very quick. And this sort of helps the potatoes get their like sizzle on when they're in the oven. And then just a row of salting. I personally don't use salt in my food almost ever, but because my sister eats a bunch of these meals as well, and she definitely loves her salt, I have to put it on. Then a quick round of pepper as well. So ideally you want to put these potato trays in about 10 to 15 minutes before the chicken trays, and that way they can get well sizzled and well crunchy as we want them. But ideally you want to flip them halfway through. Anyway, you heard the oven beep, it's time to put these in. Alright, so now that the potato trays are in the oven, I'm going to set a quick timer on my phone for about 12-13 minutes so that we know when it's time to put in our chicken tray, and let's start working on that. This is actually probably my favorite part of the whole cooking experience. So yeah guys, that's basically it. That is the whole tray. Everything is on there, all the vegetables, all the chicken. And now it's time to put it in the oven. Alright guys, so now I'm going to put a timer on my phone for about 20 minutes, 23 minutes, something like that. And then we'll come and check it and see if it's cooked enough as we like it, and we can always leave it in for longer. But while the chicken's in the oven and there's basically nothing for us to do, this is a good time to clean up all the mess that you've made. So at this point, I'm going to wipe down all the counters, clean up any utensils or cutting boards that I've used along the way, just so that I can save time for me in the future. So you see, it's actually really easy. The main cleaning up that you have to do with a cook like this is those big trays. And yeah, that's gonna take me about 5 to 7 minutes later over here, getting rid of the grease and everything, but it's minimal cleanup for the amount of food that we're making. All right guys, so the timer's gone off and it's time to check on the food. A lot of smoke is gonna come out, so I might have to fan the fire alarm, but let's see. Oh, potatoes look really, really good. All right, so look at that. Perfectly crisp golden brown potatoes. Yum, 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 yum. Second tray is looking good too. Maybe these ones here. So, and then last but not least, that chicken tray. Oh, yum, 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 yum. Is it foggy? Yeah. So before I decide everything's ready and I start putting it into Tupperwares, I'm just gonna test one of the chickens to see if it's cooked all the way through. And the way you do this is you cut the fattest chicken, the one that's the thickest. If that's cooked, then everything else is cooked. So let's see what we can find here. This chicken looks quite big. Just gonna cut down right through. Look at all that juicy goodness. Ugh. Yummy, yummy, yummy. All right. So it looks perfectly cooked. Now we can start putting it into Tupperware so that we can portion out for the rest of the week. So we've got a bunch of Tupperwares. I'm gonna start by taking one piece of chicken and putting it in each. So yeah, basically this part is really simple. I'm just trying to like spread out equally all of the food that we've cooked across the different Tupperwares. Yeah. Alright guys, so basically everything is finished now. We've got these trays over here to clean up later, and then we have down here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Tupperwares of food ready for the week to come. Now in the last episode of Cooking with Karma Medic, one of my closest friends, Arslan, was the guy who was tasting the food and giving you his honest opinion. Give your honest opinion.
Like off camera?
This time it's gonna be my twin sister Noor. She's gonna taste the food and let you guys know what she thinks. Alright. Ready?
Not on the couch!
Alright. Tell the people what you think.
Wow, it looks great. It's good.
It's good. Alright. It's a good start. Good?
Mm-hmm.
Is it still juicy? Hi, my name is Nasser and I'm now a third year medical student studying at King's College London. I usually make videos all about medical school, studying, productivity and things like that, but every now and again I like to show you guys what it is that I cook and how it is that I cook. This is a little bit strange to say out loud, but this will be my 7th year at university, and for all the years that I have been at university, I've cooked almost all of my meals myself. And that's because I believe that meal prepping or cooking your own meals should be fast, it should be easy, healthy, and also the time that you spend in the kitchen should be able to feed you for many days going forward. And that's why I cook in bulk. It's one of the main themes of my cooking and it's something that I always do. So what we're going to be cooking today is salmon with a side of quinoa and vegetables. I'm going to show you guys the secret sauce that I use on my salmon, a couple extra garnishings and things like that. And then I'm also going to make a salad on the side to make sure that we get in as many vegetables as possible. Now one of the most important principles for me when it comes to cooking is efficiency. The faster I can cook and get my meals ready, then the more time I have to do other things in my day. So it's very important for me to do everything in the right order and also to maximize the amount of dead time. Usually the longest part of any meal prep is cutting up and preparing the vegetables, so that's what we're gonna do first. Now usually the vegetables have a little bit of prep to do. You need to cut them into smaller pieces or cut off the stalks and things like that. But the ones that I bought today are already ready, so I can skip that step. Now for broccoli and asparagus specifically, you want to cook them slowly over time because they tend to be quite a hard vegetable, and so it's better to cook them slowly rather than fry them really quickly. Usually I use olive oil to cook just about everything in the house, but recently I've discovered that if I cook the asparagus or broccoli with butter, it actually tastes so much better. Now as far as oil or butter in order to fry your vegetables, you guys can add as much as you want. Obviously the more you add, the less healthy your dish is going to become, but it's up to you and you guys can find a personal balance that you enjoy. So I'm gonna turn on the heat to something fairly low, like a 4 or 5 out of 10, so I can slowly cook these guys over time. Now, In the meantime, I'm gonna start preparing the salmon. Because I've started to cook the vegetables and now I'm gonna prepare the salmon, I know that I'm gonna need to put the salmon in the oven fairly soon, so I'm gonna start heating it up as well. So the oven settings that I use is I just turn this dial here to the one with a fan. Basically, I just want the heat to come from everywhere, not only from the top or the bottom. And then I turn the temperature to 180 degrees, and that's usually good enough. All right, so as you can see, the butter has started to melt now. I can move that around evenly along the base of this big pan. And basically, I just want to lay everything down to hopefully get as much surface area with the pan as possible. Obviously, you can't do that if you're cooking as many vegetables as I am, but that's okay. I'll rotate them and flip them as we go along. Now, because not all the vegetables are touching the bottom of the pan, I'm gonna add a little more butter over the top that I'm eventually gonna mix in once it heats up, and that way I can hopefully evenly get everything to cook. All right, now let me show you guys how it is that I cook the salmon. So like I said before, the salmon is gonna get cooked in the oven, and the way that we do that is we build these little boats out of aluminium foil to put the salmon in, and then we can drizzle on all the sauce that we want. So I'm gonna try to make the boats big enough to fit 2 pieces of salmon at a time. Now, Alexia is actually the one who taught me how to do this. Don't ask me what the method is. She makes them much better than me, but I'm just gonna do my very best. So like I said, Alexia makes these so much better than me, but the idea is that you want to have this little enclosure that you can add the salmon and the sauce on, and then you can close it so that the salmon can cook nice and evenly inside. Alright, so we've got our 2 boats now, and I think it's time to make the sauce. So how I make the sauce that I add onto the salmon is the following. First of all, you're going to need a lot of soy sauce. And by a lot, I mean a lot. This sauce is also what you can drizzle on at the end over your quinoa or your rice, vegetables. It's what brings the whole dish together. Alright, now after you've added the soy sauce, the secret ingredient is honey. Honey just absolutely makes this dish taste so good. Gives it that little sweet taste that you want as well. So drizzle in a bunch of honey in there. And then last but not least, sesame seeds. This is also just one of those small touches that makes the dish taste so much better. I highly recommend you guys try it out if you haven't before. I'm personally a big fan of sesame seeds, so I'm gonna add a bunch, but you guys can add as much as you want. Starting to cook along, like I said, nice and slowly, not doing it too fast, letting all those really tough, strong fibers break down slowly. Alright, so that beeping was the oven, which means the oven is ready, which is good because we're almost ready with the salmon. Alright, so now you want to take this sauce, mix it really well. Basically, you want to get that honey. It won't really fully dissolve, but you want to get it mixed in with the soy sauce as much as possible. Ah, so good. Alright, so now let's bring out that tray that we had with the 2 boats. Let's cut open this salmon box real quick. And now, because we touched raw meat with that knife, we need to get rid of it. We need to put it in the sink, all right? And we don't want to use these tongs to touch the salmon because they've touched raw meat, so we need another set of tongs. I'm gonna do 2 salmons per little boat. It's important to keep moving the asparagus and the broccoli around just to make sure that it doesn't like get burned or stuck to the bottom of the pan. And you want the ones that were previously at the top to get down to the bottom so everything's evenly cooked. They're getting cooked quite nicely. The butter is really helping them get this glistening shine that you see here. Alright, so back to the salmon. It's time to finally drizzle on that sauce. Now I like to make sure that I get the sauce actually on the salmon meat, not only on the skin or on the bottom. So once I make sure I've gotten enough sauce on top of the actual salmon, I'll just take the rest of the sauce and split it between the 2 boats. Now because we're cooking in these boats, because it's closed, all that evaporation is going to help steam it, and it's going to taste a lot better than if we were just frying it. And of course it's healthier because you're not using oils and things like that. Alright, so now let's close these boats, give them a good seal, well, as best as we can anyway. So since we know the oven is ready to go, we can just throw them straight in. Really depends how much you need to cook it, how long it's gonna cook for. I tend to do something between 12 and 20 minutes. So I'll start at like 16 minutes and then check on them. And then I'll check one of them, see if it's cooked all the way through to how I like it. And then if it still needs some more, I can just throw it back in. So I'm gonna set a quick timer for 16 minutes. And while the salmon's cooking away in the oven, I wanna give a quick shout out to the sponsor of today's video, Skillshare. Make 2020 the year where you explore new skills, deepen your passions, and increase your creativity using Skillshare's online classes. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of classes covering pretty much any topics. You can learn anything that you want. They've got short classes which fit around your busy routine, which is really important for me because, as you know, I try and do a lot of things in a single day. They offer classes designed for real life, so you can learn about cooking like we were today, or how to take amazing Instagram photos, how to increase your creativity, and just anything that you can think of. A class that I'm currently taking is called Social Media for the Creative Entrepreneur, and it's teaching me how to increase engagement across my social platforms and figure out this sort of YouTube creator, social media influencer position that I found myself in. If you're interested in Skillshare and want to explore your creativity, you can click the links in the description down below and get 2 months of the premium membership for free. All right, now back to the cooking. Now in the meantime, if you're cooking rice or quinoa like I am today, that's gonna take about 20 minutes, so we should get started on that. Now quinoa or rice is probably the easiest thing in the world to make. You literally just throw it all into a pot, and then you cover the quinoa or rice with water until the water covers the quinoa with about this much of your finger. It's something like 2 centimeters, yeah, 1.5 to 2 centimeters. Then you put it on the stove and set it to the highest temperature your stove will go until the water boils, and then you turn it down to about a 4 or a 5, cover it and wait 20 minutes and it's done. All right, so hopefully you guys can see over there, I've got the quinoa cooking. It's gonna take about 20 minutes to be fully ready. And then the vegetables over here, they're basically ready, but I'm just gonna leave them on a low heat to stay warm until everything else is finished. While we're waiting for all of that, we can just make a quick salad. And I try and keep my salads as simple as possible. I just put some sort of leaf like rocket or spinach, and then add a couple of tomatoes, olive oil, balsamic vinegar, and it's good to go. And yeah, there you go. There's a salad that took about 1.5 minutes to make. It increases the amount of vegetables that you eat in your day, keeps you healthy, and it's just a good thing to add to your daily meals if you can. Let's check on the salmon. All right, let's see what we've got over here. I'm gonna open the bigger one, the fatter one, and if that's cooked, then the smaller one is cooked too. All right, perfect. All right, so I guess I can start with the vegetables. They're all pretty much done now. Put those on the side. Now that the quinoa's done, we can just plate that up as well. And then last but not least, I'm gonna bring on the salmon. Haven't managed to get it in one big piece, but that's all right. And then the last thing that I do is just drizzle on some of this sauce, give it some more flavor. I like to put it on wherever I can. All right, and that is it. That's the whole plate done. I'm pretty excited to eat it. Now, usually I would have my friend or my sister taste the food so that you guys could get a second opinion to know if my cooking is actually good or not. But unfortunately, nobody is home today. So I'm gonna have to taste it all by myself and give you guys as much of an unbiased opinion as I possibly can. I'll do my very best. So that's the final dish. We've got the salmon, the quinoa, the asparagus, and the broccoli. And then we've just got a small salad on the side. I'm gonna put something on Netflix, sit down and eat this meal, and then I'll let you guys know my official, unbiased verdict. All right, guys, let me tell you for real. All right, the salmon, the soy sauce, the honey, the sesame seeds, honestly, very, very, very good. This is one of my favorite dishes that I make. Then the broccoli and the asparagus, I wish I'd cooked it at a slightly higher temperature, so going back, I would probably cook it at about a 6, just so it gets a little bit more tender, but being cooked in the butter made it taste really, really good as well. Of course, you can use olive oil if that's what you prefer. And then the quinoa, pretty standard. I like to use tricolor quinoa because I think it adds a little bit more flavor and texture to the dish, but you can use rice or any other quinoa that you want. Then when I drizzled the sauce on top of everything, I think that's what tied it all together. Personally, I really like the dish. I wish I had one of you guys try it, honestly, just so that you guys could give an unbiased rating. My recommendation is that you try out this dish, try it with the sauce on the salmon, and I think you'll really, really like it. Anyways, I think that is it for me for this video. I hope you guys have enjoyed another episode of Cooking with Karma Medic. If you did, please do leave a like on this video and subscribe to my channel to see more content from me in the future. I hope you've enjoyed, hope you're having a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next